And we're ready? We're good? Good evening, everyone. I call this September 26, 2023 hybrid administrative meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to order. We will have a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our very own Linda Stover, County Clerk. United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 3, announcements of additions or changes to the agenda. Madam County Manager, do you have any changes to the agenda?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair and Commissioners. Yes, there's 2 of them. So under Technical Services, item 8D, amendments to the Bernalillo County Subdivision Ordinance of Bernalillo County Code 74. And item 8E, Technical Services, amendments to Bernalillo County Code Chapter 42. That's under Health and Sanitation. So if we could get those deferred, and a vote is required for those, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I also have a change. I would like to, in consultation with our county manager, defer item 9A, and that is for FY24 one-time appropriations. And so that all 3 of those will need a vote.
Madam Chair, I'd like to discuss item 9A's deferral.
Okay. So let's vote on the first 2, that the change of deferring item 8D and 8E. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, those are deferred. And deferral, I move deferral of item 9A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Chair?
Okay, yes, discussion?
Yes. I just want to know why we're deferring this. This is something we standardly do every year, and I'm not quite sure if we need to hold the county business. This is really simple, very easy county business that we do every year, and I'm wondering why we're just not moving it forward and getting these departments the funds that they need to function properly, right? They know what they need, so I don't understand if this is something that we necessarily really need to do. Could someone explain why this is being deferred?
Yeah, I can answer that, and then I'll defer to Commissioner Olivas. I request this deferral. This is $21.2 million of unspent money to be reappropriated. And I felt that it was important, because of a large amount, that we, as the commission, have more time to discuss that with the county manager and the DCM. And so that is the reason for my request.
So we couldn't do that tonight? I mean, we've had this for a while, Madam Chair, and we understand the money. I'm just afraid that this is being deferred so we can go into doing the county's business and telling them what they think, whether this is a good thing for your department to have, this is not a good thing for your department to have. Is that what you're going to do? You're going to go into the county business and you're deferring it so you can go by line item to see what their needs are and if they're appropriating the money appropriately, because they have done it historically the whole time I've been here, 7 years. We've never had an issue. There's never been misuse of funds. There's never been a case of anybody reusing these funds in an inappropriate way. I'm just wondering why we are getting into the weeds now.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Olivas.
I'd like to jump in and first of all say that I'll be supporting this deferral. It's the prerogative and the duty of this commission to safeguard the funds of our taxpayers. These are by definition taxpayer funds, and we are tasked with stewarding those funds. Furthermore, I hear the commissioner speaking about this is the way we've always done it, so we ought to keep doing it that way. We have a crisis on our streets right now. If you look outside, drive around this city, anywhere around here, we have homeless people everywhere. We have a crime epidemic. We have a substance abuse and addiction epidemic. Business as usual is not working.
So, Madam
And
Chair,
that's
how
what,
does,
excuse me, Commissioner, I have the floor. So business as usual is not working. And that's part of the reason why I ran for this office and why I'm sitting in this seat right now is because that was not serving our community. And I think we have every right and every responsibility, in fact, to look at how public money is being spent and ensure that it's meeting the needs of our community and meeting these urgent and emergent needs that we see growing all around us. And that's why I'll support this tonight.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Casal.
So this fund is for departments and for what they've asked for in order to run their departments. That's what this money is going towards. This has been on the agenda for, we've known this is coming on the agenda for a while. And yeah, if you want to discuss that, tonight's the night to discuss that, to figure out what department, and discuss it with the county manager and staff. To not believe in this staff, to not believe in Bernalillo County and this incredible staff that has been working with me for the last 7 years, to think that they're doing something inappropriate or that you have to micromanage what these departments are asking for. We've all been updated on what this money and what it's earmarked for, and these are what these departments are asking for in order to run their department. This does not have nothing to do with homeless people on the street. It has nothing to do with any of these social issues that we're working on. To think that even just delaying this is going to help that is delusional. I'm in a different city every weekend. Every city in the United States is dealing with homelessness, substance abuse, behavioral health issues. Nobody has come up with the magic wand. Where's the magic paintbrush to fix it? There isn't. This is just basic county business here, to appropriate this money to departments so they can do the job that they've done and that they continue to do. That's why I will not support this deferral. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you,
I call a question.
I would just say one statement before we finish this, and then we will call a question. It is our job as a Board of County Commission to appropriate funds for the running of the county. And I think it is very appropriate for us to take a look at this list of, it's $21.2 million of expended funds that will be going back in to the departments. This is in no way a statement that anybody is doing anything wrong. It's an opportunity for us to do our jobs as the appropriators. So I do, Commissioner Benson.
Just a point to make. I think there's several points that have been made that are well made, actually. I think we do have the responsibility to make sure that the budget is being managed well. That's ultimately our responsibility. Part of how we do that is the appointment of a chief executive, which is the Madam County Manager, and then from there, there's management that goes from there, which makes the day-to-day operational decisions. And I do think it's dangerous to start getting into the weeds there, yet we still have to, we are responsible for the budget. So I think, so I do support this. I spoke with you earlier about this. I do support the deferral just to make sure that everyone's aware of where the money is going, just for accountability. However, I think it's dangerous when a board of any type of organization starts getting into management at the lower levels and making day-to-day operational decisions. So for what it's worth, I just want to caution that. And if that's where this was going, I would not support it. From the high level, I support this.
Thank you, sir. The question has been called. All those in favor of deferral of item 9A, signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. And that passes 4-1. Thank you. Item 4, proclamations. Vice Chair Barboa, National Recovery Month.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to invite Nico Morales and Michelle up to you, I believe, Michelle. Yes, thank you. Up to the podium. And I'm excited about this acknowledgement, this recognition of today. We are in National Recovery Month of September. We had a few speakers last week. I wanted to use this opportunity to let to help educate us on what does it mean for recovery and why is National Recovery Month even important. But first I'll read this proclamation, and then I want to, I've asked Nico and Michelle to, from Office of Community Health, and Nico Morales with No Halo, to speak just for a few minutes for us. Thank you, Chair. So, acknowledging National Recovery Month, acknowledging the 2023 National Recovery theme is recovery is for everyone, every person, every family, every community. It reminds people in recovery and those who support them that recovery belongs to all of us. And acknowledging, addressing the complex alcohol, drug, and mental health treatment needs of children, youth, and families today requires both prevention and treatment interventions, which are fundamental to the safe and healthy future of Bernalillo County. And acknowledging in 2018, it was estimated that nearly 1 in 10 New Mexican adults and 1 in 6 young adults between 18 and 25 years of age had a substance use disorder. And during that same year, New Mexico recorded its highest alcohol-related death rate at 70.3 deaths per 100,000. Individuals in its second highest drug overdose death rate are at 26.6 deaths per 100,000. And acknowledging, we recognize National Recovery Month now and in its 34th year as a call to promote and support evidence-based treatment and recovery practices to make recovery attainable in our communities and for our families. Acknowledging mental health and substance use disorders are not one-size-fits-all conditions, nor do they affect everyone equally. Culturally competent multilingual resources and gender-expansive programs should acknowledge and include LGBTQ+, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other historically marginalized community members. And acknowledging observance of National Recovery Month serves as a reminder that when we empower communities and families, we are engaging in healing that extends beyond the individual. Every person, every family, every community means we are proud of our diversity and are committed to sharing our personal accomplishments and struggles, reaching across barriers to support one another and actively dismantling systems that harm our neighbors in recovery. And acknowledging local volunteers and organizations working to support the recovery of individuals have organized Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery 8th annual event, which will be held September 27th at Civic Plaza. Now therefore be it resolved that Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes September 2023 as National Recovery Month and invites all residents, private institutions, businesses, and schools to participate in increasing awareness and understanding of the challenges inherent in the recovery process, and by spreading the message that prevention works, treatment is effective, and recovery is possible for people and families. Done this 26th day of September 2023 in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico. Thank you so much. I just want to say real quickly, I've been working, Bernalillo County has put a lot of investment into keepnmalive.com. Please go, folks that are watching, engage with that site. I'm wearing our fentanyl, do you know of fentanyl? Ask Me shirts. But our families have been reaching out to communities at Isotopes games and at the concerts and everywhere they can, bringing awareness and Narcan to our communities. And I just want to invite, thank you, Nico and Michelle, for a few minutes to talk about recovery.
My name is Michelle Williams, and I am a program manager at the Tiny Homes Village that you all support here. I'm a representative with UNM, and I just wanted to thank you all for the proclamation and for inviting me today. Our methodology with therapeutic services and some of the case management services that we give to our homeless clients in transition is a trauma-informed model. And, you know, I can say, sometimes I feel like I have to look around the room, I guess. I'm a retired police officer, and this is my second profession. And while that's a very worthy profession and effective in certain models, what I can say that is really helpful in the presentation that UNM and our services that we're partnering with Bernalillo County in providing services to, again, clients in transition. This trauma-informed model is really about a response to people's behavior. that's a lot different than a criminal justice response. And we already know that the criminal justice response isn't all that effective in actually changing behavior. It's appropriate and it needs to exist, but what we know about a trauma-informed model is identifying what is the trauma, and our commitment as a university is to hire people who are knowledgeable in that and to continue to educate our staff about what is trauma and what are oftentimes inappropriate coping mechanisms to the trauma that people have experienced. And again, our case managers and our therapeutic services are about understanding what those inappropriate coping mechanisms are and trying to come up with different outcomes. Again, a post-criminal justice model often takes that behavior and tries to predict whatever future behavior may be and prevent that for the safety of the community. We're trying to do a trauma-informed model that's about the safety of the individual in their future behavior to try and support whatever community outcomes that we really desire. So we look forward to the day that every month is Recovery Month. We like to support our clients there who are in recovery or attempting recovery, as we know it's a process. So we just continue to support the behaviors that cause the inappropriate actions that oftentimes that we see in the community. And I appreciate everybody's support at Tiny Homes, and we look forward to continuing to work hard on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the thank you for sure. Albuquerque is a beautiful place and it has a lot of history. And part of that history, unfortunately, comes with substance use and dealing with unknown circumstances, traumatic circumstances in different ways. One of the most beautiful things that I know about our people in our county is that the thought process around here is different. And what we know is that the thoughts create emotions and emotions create actions. So if we can change the way that overall everybody thinks about these situations, reducing stigma, increasing resources, and allowing for individuals to make decisions on their own, empowering a person-first, person-centered treatment plan is the most helpful. Coming from lived experience myself, there wasn't very much person-centered. It was, you're a criminal, and we're going to treat you like a criminal. So that will deter people from seeking help. Being able to change that perspective is something that I'm very grateful that you guys are empowering. So just a second thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Do you want to come up and get the proclamation?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. Item 4B, we have a proclamation from Commissioner Benson, National Preparedness Month.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. All right. Thank you. Do you have anybody else? Chief Pratt? There you go. Can't recognize people that aren't willing to be recognized. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for being up here. The Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby acknowledge National Preparedness Month. The safety and well-being of all residents, especially those who are most vulnerable, are of utmost importance to the Bernalillo County Commission. The READY campaign's 2023 National Preparedness Month theme, which is, quote, preparing for older adults, serves as a crucial reminder that disaster preparedness efforts must address the unique needs of older adults, particularly those from communities disproportionately affected by various all-hazard events. Older adults often face increased risks during extreme weather events and emergencies, especially if they are living alone, experiencing financial constraints, dealing with disabilities, or residing in rural areas. The 2023 National Preparedness Month campaign emphasizes the importance of equipping older adults with the information and resources necessary to ensure their safety, including educating them about emergency evacuation plans and shelter options. Bernalillo County's commitment to all hazard preparedness is demonstrated through meticulous planning, comprehensive training exercises, and the allocation of resources for effective emergency response countywide, along with active collaboration with state, federal, and local agencies to secure additional assistance and funding during times of crisis. We urge all residents, businesses, and community organizations to actively participate in preparedness activities, extend a helping hand to older adults in need, and to collectively work toward a safer and more prepared Bernalillo County. Thank you very much. We don't have a plaque because this is an internal recognition, but please, love to hear from you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm Tom Wamsey. I'm the emergency manager here for the county, and I just can't thank you enough for the support and this proclamation. National Preparedness Month, it's something that we do all year, but to really call attention to the threats and hazards, especially those vulnerable populations. And again, we work on programs throughout the year to help address and support those. So thank you very much.
Well, they still want a picture, so.
Thank you.
Item 4C, Commissioner Olivas has a Community School Coordinator Appreciation Week. Brock.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. As a product of Albuquerque Public Schools myself, it's a great pleasure of mine to serve on the Community Schools Partnership Board, and it's a great honor to be able to present this proclamation tonight. And I know that we have several members of the community, educators, as well as our Director of the Community School Partnership, Danette Townsend, is here with us. And I just want to briefly highlight the success of this model and what an important partnership this is. This brings together the city, the county, state resources, and Albuquerque Public Schools to put everybody together at one table and really support our community and support early interventions and early supports in life to help our youth succeed. So it's a real honor to be able to present this proclamation tonight. The Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners, sponsored by all of us here, whereas community school coordinators are the key to successful community schools, creating, strengthening, and maintaining the bridge between the school and community. And whereas community school coordinators facilitate and provide leadership for collaborative process or of transforming a school into a community school, which includes development of a continuum of services for children, families, and community members within a school neighborhood. And whereas there are 73 community school coordinators within Bernalillo County who work diligently to create and manage the partnerships that allow all of our students to learn and communities to thrive. And whereas Bernalillo County is joining National Coordinators Appreciation Week with the Institute for Educational Leadership Coalition for Community Schools to celebrate and lift up coordinators across this county. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes the week of September 17th to 23rd as Community School Coordinator Appreciation Week in Bernalillo County to honor the community school coordinators diligently working to serve our students, families, and communities. Done this 26th day of September 2023 in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico.
Proper applause. Madam Chair, Commission, we want to thank you for recognizing the hard work of these folks. They are the cornerstone to this strategy. In 2007, when I started on the ABC board, we had 4 community schools. In 2016, we held the national conference here and we had 15 community schools. In 2017, we had 26 community schools. Today, within the bounds of Bernalillo County, we have 76 community schools in our network, which means we have 76 of these amazing individuals who are working to not only ensure families have wraparound services, but that the voice of the community is active and present in the shared power and shared decision-making models within schools, and that community are driving their will and self-determination within their children's education. It isn't a thing that we do with community schools, it's a how we deliver schooling in our schools. And it is led by some of these folks right here. So I don't know if any of you would like to say anything. They're all panicking now because that's not what they do. They do the work. They don't talk about the work. But anyone? Yeah. They're saying no, so that's all right. That's all right. All right. You can always count on Miss Marcus there.
Hi, everyone. So, and then probably they were looking at me because I'm the oldest, and then the oldest, actually, the oldest community school coordinator as well. So this is just a group of us representing all the community schools. The rest of the coordinators, they're probably managing and handling school events, meeting with families, and working still at the school level. But I just want to thank you, ABC Community School Partnership, and all the partnerships around us, because I truly believe in community schools and the work that we're doing and the changes and the transformations that are happening at the schools. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Come on up and get the proclamation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do for our kids and our community. Item 5, public comment and communications. But before we hear public comment, we will hear communication item 5A. Bernalillo County Extension Service. BC Extension Officer Suzanne Porter Bolton to present.
Thank you. Let me find my PowerPoint here. I appreciate allowing me time to talk a little bit about ICANN. ICANN is a part of the Bernalillo County, or actually any county extension service throughout most of the New Mexico. So what is ICANN? That's a question I get asked a lot. And so ICANN is the umbrella organization at NMSU that oversees 2 USDA nutrition education grants. And so why is that important? It's because in New Mexico, the average ICANN family of 4 lives on less than $1,000 a month. And so in response to that, ICANN has tried to meet the needs of educating people to help them eat better and make better choices with the foods that they eat, the activities they do, and how they spend their precious SNAP resources. And so in 2022, statewide, we taught over 30,000 New Mexicans at over 240 participating sites. About a little over 640 participants used our Seed to Supper program, and that's both online or in person. We have a social media president, and so over 56,000 people viewed our social media education. And then we also reach diverse audiences. So I don't have really up-to-date information for SNAP or last year's or this ending year for FNAP. So we're going to get a little mishmash of information here. But in 2022, SNAP Ed reached almost 20,000 people. We had over 600 Facebook posts. We reached over 14,000 Facebook users. We had 14 classes and about 319 participants. We distributed 10 flyers, but those flyers reached over 4,800 people. That doesn't seem like a lot, but since the pandemic, I would say our staff is less than half. We lost a lot of people who'd been there for decades, and they retired during the pandemic. And so we've either had one or no staff educator during that time. So these numbers will be much better next year. FNEP. So again, we're down to 4 FNEP educators right now, and so really struggling with filling positions and also having enough money to fill those positions too. And so, but in spite of that, almost 90% of the adult participants who completed our education, our series educations, reported a positive changes in their food behavior and their food choices. our participants significantly decreased their sodium intake. And they also scored better on the healthy eating index. And so there's 3 categories in the healthy eating index. There's poor, needs improvement, and good. Needs improvement hovers around 50%. Poor started off at around 50%, but over 5% of those migrated to the good. And so that may seem small, but it is significant. So what does ICANN do? Right now, we're really focusing on bridging the gap between rising food costs and decreasing SNAP benefits. And so we do this by teaching people not to go hungry or help them not to go hungry. We teach them about basic human nutrition. We teach them how to manage their resources by meal planning, shopping with a list, and comparing food products and prices. We also teach cooking lessons and cooking skills. We also want to teach them about food safety and food storage so that they don't waste food. We're trying to really address that important issue. We teach them how to add exercise to their daily life and how it can improve their life and make them feel better. And in short, we're really just trying to help people make and improve lifestyle changes in their habits, their lifestyle habits. So anyway, after participating, and this is again 2022 information, 93% of our adult participants, and this is both in FNEP and SNAP, reported making better food choices. 87% reported that they are managing their food budget better. At that time, last year, 61% had actually decreased their food bill, their food budget bill, by $18 on average. 73% washed their hands more regularly, cooked their food and stored their food at safe temperatures, and prevented cross-contamination. 65% increased their daily physical activity. It's great. 86% of the children who participated, because we also teach in the schools, also reported better diet quality. So going forward, as the supervisor here in Bernalillo County, my focus is going to be on hiring more staff as and when I can. Again, we're seeing what the budget looks like. NMSU had 2 big pay raises over the last couple of years, but our budget didn't go up. And so while we're happy to have more money individually, it can be a little bit of interest in hiring. But I also want to focus on expanding our reach, both in person and online. And so we're working on developing more online classes to reach more people, because that is easier for more people to get to. It's more cost effective. We can teach larger classes. We can provide the same quality education, I believe. And finally, I really want to help our participants to understand the value of what we teach. While our grants are federally funded and completely free to our participating agencies and our participants, they are not cheap. The average lesson starts for one person, if that's all that's in the class, at about $325, and then it goes up in about $5 increments for every participant after that. And so while we provide really cool incentives, the most important and the best thing that we provide is the education. Because when somebody gets it, and that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can be life transforming. I thank you for listening, and I stand open for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Olivas.
I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you do and all the other programs at the Extension Service, and how important this is, because like you said, that moment of educating somebody on how to improve their health and their economic well-being, you really can't buy that. And so I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We now will move on to public comment. Each person has 2 minutes, and you will be alerted about your remaining time. When your name is called, please make your way to the podium if you are presenting in person. Before making your statements, please state your name for the record. To maintain order and decorum, and in the spirit of professionalism and respect to every presenter, speakers must adhere to the 2-minute time limit. If the conduct of any presenter violates these rules, they may be subject to removal. Julianne, can you please call the names of our speakers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will start off with our one Zoom participant who will be speaking via Zoom. Dr. Alexandra Nyman. You can go ahead and start with your comments, please. Okay, I think she's having some audio issues, so we'll move into in-person. We'll start with Mr. Don Schrader. Followed by Donald Hume, followed by Larry Hinojos.
The Bible says Jesus promised your Father in heaven will give good gifts to those who ask. Millions of people for thousands of years have begged God for help from starvation, earthquakes, floods, fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, rape, family violence, slavery, sickness, torture, and war. Millions who prayed received no help. No God helped millions of Jews, gays, gypsies, communists, handicapped people in the Nazi concentration camps and gas ovens. So why would I expect God to hear my prayers and help me? I was a very sincere Christian preacher 57 years ago in Virginia and later in Illinois. For many years, I prayed to God. I sang about God. I preached about God, my imaginary friend. I swallowed false advertising for God. I spread false advertising for God. With the help of many people, I slowly woke up. I thank many people who helped me on my long journey away from addiction to religion and feel-good delusion. I was wrong. I apologize. I wish we had an all-powerful, fair, loving God who would help all people begging desperately for help. But wanting that does not make it so.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Donald Hume, followed by Larry Hinojos, followed by Gregory Spackman.
Hello, thank you. My name is Donald Hume. I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means that I have not picked up a drink or a drug in 31 years, 11 months, and 13 days. And I haven't been in a mental health ward in 32 years. And I tell you that because I believe that it's important for you to know that recovery is possible. I had people when I came into recovery that believed in me, that would stand by me, that didn't judge me for who and what I was. They gave me meaning and purpose in life. Today I have a job. I was told that I would be unemployable. I've worked now for over 28 years in the field of behavioral health, working with individuals. I was homeless. I was part of our unhoused population. I live in a home today. You know, all people want to be believed in. You know, it is hard. It's difficult out there today. If I was on the street today, the way that I used, I'd probably be dead today. I was a 22-year IV drug user. Recovery is possible. We need to find ways of giving individuals what they need, and that is meaning and purpose, not distrust and unbelief. So please come see us tomorrow. Come be a part of the celebration. Also, please, please go to the Keep New Mexico Alive Fentanyl, Keep New Mexico Alive Fentanyl Awareness, and take a look at what we've done and what we continue to do to assist those people.
Thank you very much for coming down. I appreciate it.
Larry Hinojos, Gregory Spackman, Frederick Bacon. Dr. Gerardo Cionello.
Come on
Larry Hinojos, Gregory Spackman, Frederick Bacon.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm Gregory Spackman. Maybe I'm stepping ahead one, I apologize. And I'm a resident of Albuquerque. I'm here tonight to speak about election integrity. Ballot harvesting has created an opportunity for coercion, intimidation, bribery, and switching or discarding of ballots. There are a serious chain of custody issues, and it should never be used. Furthermore, I'm concerned about the potential for absentee ballots to fall into the wrong hands. Absentee ballots should only be provided to those who are unable to be present to vote. Also, voter registration at the time of voting or while obtaining one's driver's license presents huge opportunities for fraud. Electronic counting machines provide an opportunity for erroneous and sometimes fraudulent counts. My wife and I lived in Omaha, Nebraska in the 70s and 80s. A grocer, Al Vase, ran as a write-in candidate in the 77 mayoral election. And he won. Write-in votes make a difference. And I've seen serious undercounting of write-in votes by machine, so that needs to be addressed. I am convinced of irregularities in past elections. Voting must be monitored closely, and counting machines must be certified. Transfer of ballots must be secure. Thank you. Election integrity must be restored.
Thank you, Mr. Speckman. Can you read the name again, Julianne?
Frederick Bacon, Dr. Gerardo Cionello.
Hi, my name's Fred Bankin, and I live here in Bernalillo County. And I spoke last meeting, about election integrity, but I have something else that I think is very important. I'm retired now. I worked as a security consultant across the state and the Southwest. I worked with about 200 different companies, casinos, hospitals, schools, developed programs for them to a very intense level. And so over the years, I saw the damage that's caused by not having good budgeting for security and safety. And, with emotion, I see all the people here speaking about issues that in some degree are related to finances. And so there are a couple things on the large picture that I've seen that I wanted to just put a bug in your ear about and probably start a discussion about this, because I do believe these are going to have a very serious impact on the county. and that is the central bank digital currency. That is being pushed by the federal financial sector, and I'm not convinced that that's the best thing for the county. And so I'm not going to make a judgment either way in front of you, but I would encourage you as a county to investigate what kind of impact that's going to have on the county. I have a feeling that having a third body involved in the management of the finances of the county is going to be a disaster. Then the last thing is because the currency continues to devalue, and over the years here in Albuquerque, I've seen this. You have about a 5 to 10% inflation rate. The question that I would put to you is how much longer can we go like this with the inflation eating away at the currency? So there are, I think, solutions to this. Greenbacks back in the Civil War were one solution. Another interesting one was the Wargle experiment that was done before World War II. These are things that I hope that you will take a look at because I think this will make a big impact on the problems that you're dealing with.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. And I would like my comments recorded for public record. Before I begin, I would like to read a quote, word for word, I believe that millions have already heard and will never forget. And I quote, "We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics, Joe Biden." And with that said, you know that election have consequences. Now, when talking about overvoting, when it comes to voter turnout that is close to or exceeds the number of eligible people of voting age in a certain election jurisdiction, it has been observed that those impressive turnout almost always happen to be in Democratic minority districts. We the people have been tolerating this mathematical, statistical, and unlikely outcome for too long. I'm going to talk about the black box voting. Voting electronically and electronic tabulation of vote is one of the most vulnerable areas in our election system, where these methods are used because it is impossible for the average person to understand or observe the process from start to finish. This is why many counties across the United States absolutely forbid electronic voting or vote tabulation of any kind. The incremental undermining of election integrity has made black box voting almost essential. This has been by design. Bev Harris, author of Black Box Voting, and Benny Smith documented these risk years ago on their website, blackboxvoting.org, and in a video entitled Fraction Magic. It demonstrated the many vulnerabilities of machine voting and tabulation. The manipulation of electronic voting tabulation is not limited to Democrat, as the nonpartisan efforts of Bev and Benny revealed election fraud in Republican races as well. Their work should convince anyone desiring honest election to reject electronic voting and election tabulation of vote, which would help improve election integrity. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll go back to our Zoom participant, Dr. Alexandra Neinman.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, County Commissioners, for your time. My name is Dr. Alexandra Neinman. I'm a fellow physician training in addiction medicine at the University of New Mexico. I'm very moved by the proclamation celebrating or honoring National Recovery Month, so thank you for that. I'm calling today on behalf of CIR, SEIU. I'm the Regional Vice President of New Mexico. We represent over 700 residents and fellows at UNMH, and we are the largest union to represent resident physicians in the country. And I'm here today to request a meeting with the Board of Supervisors to discuss the status of bargaining with UNM. We've been in bargaining with UNM for 6 months, and even though the New Mexico legislature budgeted a 5% raise for all UNM employees, including residents, UNM has offered us a paltry 2%. And it took them 6 months to bring this 2% raise to the table. When they did so, they said it was their last and best final offer. And this is despite the fact that UNM resident salaries lag over 7% behind peer institutions in the Southwest, and that the state of New Mexico has a resident retention rate that is well behind the national average. New Mexico's physician shortage is the second worst in the country. with 1/3 of the New Mexico physician workforce set to retire by 2030. I'm sure many of you have experienced this. It can be extremely difficult to see a specialist in the state of New Mexico, and even getting an appointment with a primary care physician can take forever. Despite this, UNM is refusing to treat the physicians it does have with respect. But as a county-funded hospital, the Board of Commissioners can demand that UNM does better. We have reached out to your individual offices to request a meeting. We have yet to hear anything from, I think, 4 of you, but we'd really love an opportunity to schedule something and provide more details. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Dinneman.
And that concludes public comment.
Thank you, Julianne. Excuse me, item 6, approval of minutes. I move to approve the September 12th, 2023 administrative meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say yes.
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 Aye.
And that passes. Item 7, approval of consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please provide resolution numbers for items 7C, F, G, and H, please.
Yes, ma'am. 7C is AR 2023-98. 7F is AR 2023-99. G is AR 2023-100. And H is AR 2023-101.
Thank you. Therefore, let's see, the consent agenda has been published and made available to the public. Therefore, I move approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say yes.
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 And that passes. Thank you. Item 8, adoption of ordinance amendment to county code. 8A, economic development. Madam Clerk, please provide an ordinance number.
Yes, ma'am. 8A is ordinance 2023-22.
And this is an IRB industrial revenue bond for Albuquerque Marriott Pyramid North. Marcos Gonzalez to present, please.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, the Economic Development staff recommends the approval of an ordinance authorizing the Bernalillo County Commission to approve an industrial revenue bond application on behalf of LDMMP LLC in the amount not to exceed $39.5 million for the purchase and renovation of the Marriott Pyramid North Hotel. And I'll stand for any questions.
Before we move to questions, we will now convene a public hearing. Julianne, did anyone sign up to speak?
Madam Chair, for the record, we did not have any signups for this item.
Okay, great. I will move adoption. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Mr. Gonzalez and the development team for their work on this, and I especially appreciate your work to respond to my questions about sustainability and climate impacts of this project, and what sorts of plans there are to make this development more sustainable with a lower carbon footprint and a smaller environmental impact, and I appreciate the collaboration between the county and the developer on that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivas, you're welcome.
If there are no further comments, I call the question. All those in favor say yes.
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 And that passes. Thank you, Marcos. Thank you. Item 8B, Planning and Development Services. This is the Health and Sanitation Code, Food Code update. Planning Director Nick Ham will present, but Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number first?
Yes, ma'am. Ordinance 2023-23.
And we will convene a public hearing. Did anyone sign up to speak, Julianne?
Madam Chair, for the record, no one signed up for this item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ham.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Madam Manager, good evening. Nicholas Ham, Director for Planning and Development Services for Bernalillo County. Here back before you to propose a motion to adopt amendments to the county's food code. You'll recall a month ago we brought this forth for introduction. It is a proposed adoption of the 2022 FDA Model Food Code with amendments that are relevant to our local municipality. Some of the changes that are of note, it would formally allow foods prepared, packaged, and labeled to be donated. It would allow pet dogs in outdoor dining spaces. It would allow additional consumer options for ungraded eggs to be sold. It would include changes to allow edible cannabis products to be manufactured. It reduces hot water temperature requirements in hand washing stations, and it incorporates the food handler card and certified food protection manager certifications that we worked with Commissioners Quesada and Commissioner Benson on with regard to an implementation timeline. Between introduction and adoption, Commissioner Olivas had expressed some interest in additional changes. And Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to yield some time to Commissioner Olivas to explain those.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Mr. Ham and his staff for their help in educating me and working with me on addressing this issue. So the change that we have before us tonight to consider to the larger food code really allows the introduction of a product to our food market, a local food product, which is raw milk. This is an issue that every other county in the state has decided. We allow the sale of raw milk in every other county. And so this really just moves us in line with what other communities are doing, allowing individuals in our community to make educated decisions about the foods that they consume and the foods that they purchase. So I think it's a really important change in recognizing the ability of consumers to make decisions about their own body and their own health. And I think it's also a really important change from the perspective of economic development and recognizing the importance of our food economy and our local agriculture producers, many of whom reside in my district and probably Commissioner Quesada's district as well, producing small amounts of high quality local raw milk. And this allows them to sell their product where it is grown. And so I think it's a really good thing that we can do for our local food economy in a time when we know our farmers are getting hammered by climate change and water impacts and all those types of things. This really just opens the door for them to be able to do what so many other producers are able to do, whether you want to talk about products like kombucha or other raw products that are sold under still safety. There's still guidelines around what can be sold and what condition it can be sold in, but this just really opens the market for our local producers. And so I urge my colleagues' support to this important tool for our local economy.
You want to move approval?
I move approval.
And I'll second that. Oh, yes, Mr. Ham.
Well, Madam Chair, just going to say there were some other changes meant to clarify process and just implement other aspects of and I wanted to give a nod to Kelson Platero. He's the county's health protection manager. Mr. Platero has a bachelor's degree in public health. He has a master's degree in food safety. He's a registered environmental health sanitarian by the National Environmental Health Association. Wow. He's the kind of person that you want drafting this type of ordinance language. And so while I'm standing before you to present this, the credit goes to him for drafting this and helping to keep the county safe with regard to food safety. Other than that, I just wanted to say thank you all for your consideration and urge your support.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Benson.
Yeah. So the only addition is the addition of raw milk being sold in food establishments.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Benson, and Julianne, if I could just very briefly, I'll show the language so that there's extra clarity around what we're proposing to amend tonight. There are two sections specifically, and we'll have this up in the projector.
So I think our display switcher has been compromised, so
Okay.
I don't think you could be able to
So
show it.
I'll read them for the record.
Please.
There are two sections, 33201.13. It allows an exemption for raw milk received as per Title 21, Chapter 24, Part 2 of the New Mexico Administrative Code. Raw milk may be offered for retail distribution in packaged form as per Title 21, Chapter 4, Part 2 of the New Mexico Administrative Code. The section is 3202.14, egg and milk products. It creates an exemption for raw milk received as per Title 21, Chapter 24, Part 2 of the New Mexico Administrative Code. What that means is the county now allows, as state code will allow us to allow this to be sold in retail form, provided it complies with state law.
Thank you, Mr. Ham.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Ham. You worked very hard to make sure that this ordinance change was favorable to restaurants, to make it safe for the public and yet not burdensome for our small business owners. And this, I think, just adds another layer to that, helping to bolster the local economy. Well done. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I call call for the vote. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, that passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
8C, Planning and Development Services. Madam Clerk, can you please provide an ordinance number?
Yes, ma'am. C is ordinance 2023-24.
And Mr. Ham, you're up again.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, hello again. This item is particular to the county's property nuisance abatement ordinance and specifically around the appeals process that is associated with that ordinance. When we originally drafted this, we were sort of exploring this process as we received home rule authority through the county charter. It would appear we went a little bit too far on the appellate process. What we did was create a situation where an appeal of the board's decision goes back to a staff member and then can be re-reviewed by the Board of County Commissioners. That's wildly inconsistent with other land use or enforcement processes as far as an appellate process goes. So what this does is it clarifies the language in that section of the ordinance and it creates parity with other types of enforcement or land use processes. So the flow would be from a staff decision, an appeal would go to the Board of County Commissioners, and an appeal of that decision would go to this district court system. We worked with both inside and outside counsel on this to make sure it's consistent with state law, consistent with other county processes. This creates a more efficient and consistent process that we're confident is defensible, and it allows for our nuisance abatement process to move more swiftly through the actions that the county needs to take to abate blight and to remove unsafe structures from the community. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
And I move approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barboa. Any questions or discussion?
I just have a.
Yes,
Madam
Vice Chair Barboa.
Can you summarize, you said that the process, you said a quick summary of what the process was. So what in summary is the process now?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa, so the process today is that a county staff member, the nuisance abatement officer, would petition the county's nuisance abatement hearing officer for a public hearing. And in that hearing, staff would present evidence to say, we've become aware of this unsafe structure or this unsafe condition, and we ask the permission of the commission to go and use county resources to remove that. The hearing officer would make a recommendation to you all, and you could adopt that language in the form of a resolution. If an aggrieved party wants to appeal that, as it stands today, that would go back to the staff level, which is strange. A staff level review of a Board of County Commissioners decision is peculiar to say the least. That decision would then come back to you all after a review by the hearing officer. So it's sort of this double loop. We're trying to remove that second loop of that process to recreate a more linear process where it goes staff, Board of County Commissioners, court system.
Oh, great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And it passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Ham.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
For the record, if we can clarify the ordinance number issued for that item? And then also, there was no signups for the public hearing.
Oh, I apologize. Madam Clerk, can you reread that ordinance number?
For 8C, it's ordinance 2023-24.
Thank you.
My apologies. Thank you. Okay, item 9B, budget fiscal year 2024 budget adjustments. Madam Clerk, can you please provide a resolution number?
Yes. B is FR 2023-102.
Thank you. And Deputy County Manager Shirley Reagan to present. There she is.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I am Shirley Reagan, Deputy County Manager for Finance, and I'm here to present the agenda item for the fiscal year 24 budget adjustments. As required by the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, by the State of New Mexico Statute, Section 6-6-2, NMSA 1978. We are required to close the accounting books at the end of the year, and then in September, we come back and make adjustments to the budget to roll forward those balances, and so that those accounts can have the charges going into the current year. For any items, we carry over encumbered and unencumbered projects and activity as well. So the motion before you is to approve the fiscal year 24 general fund and non-general fund final budget adjustments of $229,424,545 in revenue. And there's a slight typo on the expenditure one. That number should be $242,766,480 in expenditures as listed in attachments 1 and 2 based on fiscal year 2023 year-end balances as of June 30th, 2023. And then we also ask that you authorize the county manager or designee pursuant to Administrative Resolution 2023-77 to seek reimbursement to the general fund for any project or initiative funded by the general fund that subsequently receives funding in whole or in part from an alternative funding source such as another agency, bond proceeds, or grants. If the amount exceeds the county manager's authority, the item will be presented to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. I stand for questions.
I move approval of FR 2023-102. Do I have a
Second.
second? It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or discussions, questions for Ms. Reagans? Seeing none, we'll call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
And that passes. Thank you. Item 9C, budget again. Ms. Reagan's Questica Budget Capital Improvement Program software purchase. Madam Clerk, can you please provide a resolution number?
Yes, FR 2023-103.
Hello. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Jennifer Gallegos, Budget Manager for Bernalillo County. I am here today to ask for approval to appropriate the needed funds to purchase with SHI the Questica budget system through the Omnia Partners contract, which is a cooperative contract solicited and procured at a national level. The needed funds of $1,221,844 will allow the county to move forward to purchase the subscription as a service subscription-based system for the next 5 years. The budget development process is an extensive planning process spanning over 7 months and allocating resources of over $1 billion in general fund and non-general fund funds. Each county department and all levels of management participate in this process. Currently, the budget is developed, reported, and monitored using the SAP system and through Excel spreadsheets, which has limitations, especially in the planning areas. The entire process is extremely manual, with most of the work collected and developed using Microsoft Office products. We have been in search of a budget system for the last 18 months and thus partnered with the Capital Improvement Program and the Information Technology teams to identify a system which would meet the needs of both Budget Office and the Capital Improvement Program areas and make the planning process easier for departments and management. The CIP team has also been in search of a comprehensive solution to enhance both their operation and engagement with departments and constituents. Acquiring this system will allow the county's budget process to transition from a labor-intensive manual process to an effective, comprehensive, cloud-based budgeting and forecasting software system, which will allow county staff to more actively participate in a collaborative budget process. It'll better serve the planning team, finance staff, executive leadership, and the community by facilitating analytics with up-to-date information presented in actionable reports, dashboards, and queries, and lastly, budget more effectively for personnel, as well as manage multiple scenarios and decision packages in a single system. This industry-leading software-as-a-service subscription will provide a multi-user solution, which will include services for implementation, integration, configuration, training, and post-implementation support. The county's general fund budget has grown substantially over the years. This growth, coupled with limitations on how restricted funding can be spent, for example, ARPA funds, makes it increasingly difficult for staff to track and manage, especially manually. On the CIP side, they have been using a legacy application that is no longer supported by the original vendor, and a replacement application is imperative. The Questica application will provide comprehensive functionality for the CIP, including long-range planning and tracking of funds with enhanced user capabilities. This system is fully integrated with SAP and Workday and can also handle uploads of data from multiple sources. From the information technology perspective, the Questica solution meets the IT department's preferred approach to the introduction of a new application into the county government, as the solution integrates with county security policies. We are confident the purchase of this robust planning system will make the county more efficient and provide management with the necessary tools to make informed decisions. This impact will be felt at all levels throughout the county, and we look forward to getting the process started as we begin planning for the fiscal year 25-26 biennial budget. I stand for questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Gallegos? You do?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Olivas and then Commissioner Benson. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know I've asked a few questions on this item. And one of the things that I want to commend about this is just that this will help bring together several areas that are, of course, interrelated, like CIP and budget, but bring them into one place where they're communicating and more frequently updated and more of a live system so that we actually know, what are the sources of funds for a given project at a given time, rather than sort of waiting for everything to catch up at the end of the year and see where everything landed. So I think this is really the right move at the right time to modernize these systems. One question I have here, so we're appropriating about $1.1 million here to purchase this system. Are there any residual fees associated with this? I know most software platforms charge a subscription fee, that type of thing. So are we expecting a recurring fee for this?
So the $1.1 million is actually going to cover the system and the fees for a total of 5 years. It is actually a cost of about a little less than $200,000 annually. So this system will cost the county about $200,000 annually. The first year will be the highest cost because it will include the implementation costs of about $316,000. After that, year 2 will be about $168,000, year 3, $176,000. Year 4, 185, and so on and so forth. So it has a small escalator in there, but we do have the recurring capacity to cover that. And then again, any contract escalators will be picked up as part of the budget planning process.
Understood. That's very helpful. So we're good for 5 years, and then it will be built in to the budget after that, after this 1.1 is used up in the full contract. Okay. And one other thing that I just wanted to comment on and say I'm excited about this, and I hope it can make this possible, is really moving to a public-facing project dashboard that I think would be really helpful to the public and to us commissioners as well, to be able to look and see what projects are in process, what funding they have, where that funding has come from, whether it's capital outlay funding or general fund, bond funds, those types of things, so that we can understand how projects are built and where projects are in status, what phase they are. They're in design, we're still getting funding, they're in construction, or they're complete, those kinds of things. So I'm hoping this can be the starting point for that, to really make a live public-facing platform as well, so that for capital, but for the whole budget as well, so that it makes it easier to explore, easier to understand, and more transparent for the entire public. Thank you.
Commissioner Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, too, am looking forward to this. I don't know how you've done it in spreadsheets, but you've done it well. I just don't know how it's been done. And anytime I've asked for budget details, I know it's stressful, and Ms. Reagan has done a really good job, most likely working with your team to dig out the information that I'm requesting and presenting it in a way that's understandable and ties back to the larger budget. So I think this is going to be great. My question is, it sounds like a massive conversion to do. So what's the time frame in converting it to where you're able to use it?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, it is going to be a 4 to 6 month implementation. And so it actually is not going to be as big as we expect, only because we still will be using our SAP financial system to hold all of our data. We will then just provide an upload to the Questica system that we will then be able to utilize that data to then slice it and dice it in different ways. And also the more exciting part of the system will be the planning. So I know Commissioner Olivas was talking about access to information. And so we already have access to live data with our SAP financial system, but that information is limited to what is happening right now, what is current budgeted funds. This system is going to allow us to run scenarios. So we'll be able to download up to a 10-year history into the new system from our SAP financial system. And from then we'll be able to run scenarios, long-range planning, to get back to what Commissioner Olivas was talking about, being able to look at how multiple funding sources will affect not only projects, but the long-term plans of different things we may be working on. And so that's the part that's going to be really exciting, is right now that only lives in Excel. And so, there's a room for a lot of human error. We've done it with the tremendous work of my team, just putting in a lot of hours and making sure that we maintain those Excel spreadsheets. But this will allow us to have a repository of information that we then could report on and make available to not only you guys as executive management, but also our constituency.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Quesada and then Vice Chair Barber.
I guess the only question I would have after that is, how long can you hold on to that data after you transfer it? You're going to take it from the SAP and you're going to transfer it over. I worry about technology because it's really great when it works, but it's really bad when it doesn't. And we talk about technology all the time. We have a problem with technology today about voting, right? I mean, technology is everywhere. How is that backed up, just in case? I want that question. And number two, does this come with training? So I know people have to know how to use this and implement it. And so does that come with that price tag?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, yes, Commissioner Quesada, it does. The training is included in part of the cost. They will be not only providing us training, but then there is a ton of training tools that they've also made available to other governmental agencies where people are able to utilize that at any time. As far as your first question, I would like to defer to either Ms. Shirley Reagan or Ely in IT that could better answer the more technical portion of that.
Ely's back here, he's our deputy CIO, but in terms of security and data, we have requirements to keep historical data for 7 years. SAP is our system of record. So we have archives and backup procedures where we back up the data regularly. Of course, still, hackers can get to that, but we're constantly implementing new cybersecurity measures to try to stay on top of that. So we have multiple areas, ways to store the data. We have the cloud, we have hard servers and those sorts of things. But I'll let Ely explain it much more eloquently than I can.
I don't think I can do that. You did a wonderful job. Madam Chair, Commissioners, good to see you. Sorry, I don't have my tie down in the car. I didn't expect to be talking today. Commissioner Quesada, we do every effort for all of our applications to back up all our data as often as we can and in multiple ways that we don't share as much, you know what I'm saying? But we are, by doing it this way, is the better way than having it as we have it right now, because it is in the cloud, it is on Amazon. I'm not sure if this one is on Amazon or Azure. You know what I'm saying? There are multiple ways on Azure. Yeah, so there are multiple ways of backing up the data from there. So for us, it is a better way of doing it. And in addition, the data is still living in SAP. And being in SAP, we back up SAP, and recently we did put SAP part of the data in the web as well. Any other questions? I'm here to answer anything you need.
No?
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Barber.
I just wanted to add, it's been a lot of work. When I came to the county, I was working in the budget office and they were showing me all the manual things, and I was used to a front-end system called S-Base that you could pull the data from the main systems and do all of the things that Jennifer's talking about. So we are real excited because we do use a lot of manual processes. We've done well, and we my team does an excellent job of managing that, and it does take time sometimes to bring data back because of the way it's in the system. At some point, we'll probably be coming back for a new SAP system, our Enterprise Resource Planning System, because that one was installed in 2007, and technology has advanced so much. We could probably get better uses out of a new one, but we want to get through our workday and this and some other minor things that we're doing in the county. So we're real excited.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bourbeau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Shirley and Ms. Gallegos. I'm really thankful for your expertise tonight. I just had the start of the same question, training. I think onboarding, especially it sounds like expanding to more departments than just your team. So just, I mean, I'm assuming training for the onboarding, giving everybody practice in it. I'm horrible at technology, so I just empathize for others that need to learn this, but agree that it's needed and a good upgrade. So I guess just commenting on time, on training, or what maybe you have already planned for that onboarding.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Barboa, the system is super user-friendly. So I also promised I would not be one of those adults that shied away from technology, and here I am, just totally not technological savvy at all. But this system is amazing. It's very user-intuitive. It's able to run a lot of awesome reports. One of the really exciting things and the limitation that we have right now is that we are limited to the reports that are available. And if we want to make changes to that report, it involves having to get Ely and his team involved, and we have to go through a huge, customization process. With this system, it actually allows us to make changes ourselves, and so you don't have to have any type of programming skills or anything like that. It's as simple as clicking buttons to pull things in and take things out, and so it's really, really easy. As far as departments go, I think, again, because it is so user-friendly, they're gonna love the new system. Right now, it is a lot of tedious back and forth, so we send them the budget package in Excel spreadsheets, they send it back to us, it goes back and forth, there's typos, sometimes things get left off. I mean, there's been times where we've left off a whole cost center, a whole department from the contract listing that comes to you guys to commission for approval, and it's only because in transferring it from one file to the other, we just lost a couple of cost centers, and so it's very, very easy to make, mistakes at this point in time, but departments all deal with that as well. And so with this system, not only will it have that capability, but management will also have greater accessibility to be able to make decisions live. And so we'll be able to workflow, actually requests that departments make over to management, not only to their director, but to the DCMs and the county manager as well, so that they'll have more time for review. And so at the end of the day, I think even departments will appreciate getting that feedback from management a little quicker. So we're hoping that all of that combined will make their life a little bit easier, and it will overcome any hardships we may have. Obviously, I don't want to paint it like it's all rainbows and roses, because I'm sure it will be a difficult process, but we plan on running the FY 25-26 budget process the way we normally do it, and then we'll be looking to integrate this new process into it as well, so that, again, in case something goes wrong, we'll still be able to come to you guys in April and have a balanced budget next April. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Any questions? So let me try to summarize this motion here. It's a four-part motion. So I move approval of the purchase of the SHI Questica budget system. I also move approval of the financial resolution FR 2023-103 to appropriate and budget 1.1 million. Three, we move to authorize expenditures exceeding the county manager's signature authority limit of 300,000. And four, we authorize the county manager to approve and execute any subsequent agreements, amendments, or changes and change orders between Questica and Bernalillo County. So that's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
And that passes. Thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Congratulations. And item 9D, technical services, water well fees, permitting, and inspection resolution. Madam Clerk, can you please provide a resolution number?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Dan McGregor with Public Works Natural Resource Services. So What, the item we have before you right now is a change in the water well permit fee structure. The existing fees for individual, multiple household wells, et cetera, are not changing, they're not increasing. We're only making two changes to this fee schedule. The first is for implementing a penalty fee for when well drillers do drill a well without benefit of having obtained a county permit. It does happen on occasion, and we're trying to bring that to a halt. The other change that we're putting in is to clarify that there are certain situations where a courtesy permit is needed for putting in environmental monitoring wells, for public water supply systems, and for construction dewatering systems. We need those as a matter of record for various purposes, so we don't want to discourage that permitting with county. So those would be a zero fee item. Those are the two changes we have proposed. It'll need to be a two-part motion. One is to rescind the existing administrative resolution, and then the second would be to approve the new administrative resolution as proposed. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Before we go into questions, Madam Clerk, can you please provide a resolution number?
Yes, Madam Chair. AR 2023-104.
104. Any questions? Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. McGregor, I just had one question on this. I know when we did our briefing on this, this was connected to some updates with the subdivision ordinance and the water well ordinance, and I know that those were removed from the agenda tonight. So just curious if those need to move in tandem with this. It doesn't sound like they do, but I know that the courtesy permit provision was actually something that's being added in those updates to the water well ordinance. So
Yeah,
my understanding is
and
this wouldn't exist yet, right?
Commissioner, I appreciate the question. With regard to the public supply and monitoring, well, those permits are already required. The only place where this would even come into play would be with the dewatering operations. And with it being a zero fee permit, I would like to go ahead and proceed with getting this approved, anticipating that we will be coming back with those two deferred ordinances.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Benson.
Mr. McGregor, thank you for answering my questions earlier. Out of curiosity, how often does it happen that wells are drilled without a permit?
Let me put it this way. We know of a half dozen times a year.
Okay.
And then as we start dealing with homeowners coming in, then we find that from time to time on top of those half dozen instances.
Great. Well, one of the points that I was wanted to make sure was with the fee structure that the current well owners and people that are following the rules, nothing's going to change.
That's absolutely correct.
And that's the good news in all of this. This is really just a fine for people who aren't following the process, which I think they should be following the process. There's a reason we got it there. So I support this, and thank you for your time to go over it with me.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? So I move approval to, one, rescind the existing administrative resolution, AR 101-2005 water well fees, and approve the administrative resolution, AR 2023-104.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
And that passes. Thank you, Mr. McGregor.
Thank you, Commissioners.
We'll move on to item 10, approvals, finance, American Rescue Plan. It says DCM Shirley Reagan's, but.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm Jenny Haken. I am the Senior Fiscal Analyst for the Finance Division, and I'm here to present an ARPA agenda item. The motion before you is to approve the use of ARPA funds in the amount not to exceed $647,092 for NI03 Premium Pay Private Sector in accordance with Expenditure Category 4.02 Premium Pay. This is for existing District 4 applications received between January 9th, 2023 and January 11th, 2023. These were not processed due to the exhaustion of funds. With board approval, this item will reallocate $647,092 of Commission District 4 ARPA funds for District 4 Premium Pay Private Sector grant applications. And that is specified in the motion. and this will be administered by the Economic Development Department. I stand for any questions, and I have Marcos Gonzalez, Executive Development Officer for Economic Development Department, available as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Benson?
Madam Chair, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Hagan and Mr. Gonzalez. Can you actually kind of speak to, I'd like to speak to this. This is for District 4, but can you lay the groundwork for the work that your department's done so far in deploying funds, why they were deployed, and then we can talk about this new motion here.
Sure. Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson and Commissioners. So the Economic Development Department was originally appropriated $5 million for the premium pay program. We opened the grant application on January 9th. And by January 11th, we had to close it down due to receiving a number of applications. We received over 464 applications, and we received a combination of online, and we also saved some room for paper applications, as well as we had a number of business owners that preferred to use paper, which I like paper too, so. So in total, that was a little over $12 million in funds that we had received. We were able to process the applications. We had 179 organizations that we had funded. That's over 2,600 employees that received the benefit, and we had our program had allocated $3,000 per employee, or a maximum of $50,000 per business. So a larger business would have to give a smaller portion to the business, but we just wanted to make sure that there would be enough some type of funding for everyone that had applied. And with that, some quick program highlights. That the average application was funded at about $28,000 per application, and the average number of employees that were funded per application was about 15 employees.
Thank you, Marcos. Mr.
Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. And I also want to just fill in some of the cracks, because Mr. Gonzalez is going over the numbers and the facts, but what the magic behind all this was his department, and under the leadership of Madam County Manager in deploying these funds to the community. And during the pandemic, the whole state was shut down, except for essential businesses. And there were groups of employees that were screaming, you know, I never signed up to work in a pandemic, I'm staying home. And, you know, good for them for taking that position if they felt so. However, there were if you went out to eat, or if you went to the grocery store, or if you went to any business that was essential, you were served by courageous, unsung heroes that still don't really get credit for showing up, especially in the early days of the pandemic, where we didn't know how bad it was going to be, and they were showing up, which is the beauty of this program. This is just a thank you to those businesses, and wish we could give more. Fortunately, we ran out of money because there was such demand. This would almost double the number of businesses that receive funds in District 4, and it will go to the employees that were working during that time and are still working during that time, and they didn't expect any rewards. They were just showing up and doing what they were hired to do. And so I'm very proud of, this is one of the areas that Bernalillo County, I think, knocked it out of the park. I think you guys just knocked it out of the park. And you also are unsung heroes in this. And so I'm stoked about this.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Benson, thank you so much. And just for clarification, like you said, the essential workers that were defined by the U.S. Treasury, and then the workers itself could be paid no more than $20 per hour. So we were really getting at a lot of the essential workers that were at that kind of lower pay band. So we weren't funding large employees that were making lots of money as well during the time So it's really hitting into the essential workers and giving them a little premium pay for working during that time.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Also, just to clarify, this money doesn't go to the business. It goes to the business so that they can then pay the employees. It's the employees that are getting their rewards, and it's below a certain pay threshold. So a lot of times a business owner might make more than the other employees. And not that they don't deserve credit too, but this is for the rank and file that we're doing the work. Now, it was the business owners that recognized that need, and so they were the ones applying for this. The rank and file employees never applied for this. So it's just very egalitarian. The business owners were applying for this to bless their employees, and we're able to do so also. And the numbers that potentially could be affected is almost 300 employees. After your department does the review, make sure everybody's meeting the thresholds. It's almost 300 employees that are going to get additional pay for the unknown sacrifices they were making. So thank you for all your work on this before and continue to. And Ms. Hagan, thank you very much as well. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioner Olivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of questions for you, Mr. Gonzalez. So on the employee side of who gets these funds, this would only be for employees that were working during a certain period of time. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivia is correct. They had to be working by December, by December 2nd of 2022 in order to, that's the same cutoff period that we at the county had used of when the worker had to be established working with the organization as well. And then since we're funding this now, the employee could not have worked could not have started after April 10th of 2023, because that's when the national emergency was ended by the federal government. So it's during, they had to be employed before December 2nd, and then we couldn't have had started before April 10th.
And they still have to be employed.
Yes, and they still have to be employed by the organization.
So you're saying someone could have started on April 10th of this year, and they would be eligible for this?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Olivias, they would have had to have started by December 2nd of 2022. And they couldn't, because now that we're reviewing the applications, anybody that was new to the organization could not have, will not be eligible for a payment.
Okay, after that December date. So the other question I have then is so they could have started after December 10th of last year, and they're still eligible, the employee is, as long as they're still employed. And then the other question would be, so presumably we have a list of these businesses. How do we decide which businesses get this and which ones don't? Because even though we're kind of refilling the pot here a little bit, how do we do that in a fair way? Because if there's, 600 businesses on the list, but we can only fund 300 of them, how does that work?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Olivias, the way that we funded the businesses and the way that we funded all of our emergency programs, from the small business grant program, our patio program, and our emergency rental assistance program, is in the order of the application was received. So it's all based on a time factor. So with the premium pay program, we have it down to 100th of a second of when they got their application in. And we're evaluating it that close just because there were so many. And so we just continue to.
I just wanted to add also, when the U.S. Treasury issued the guidelines, they kind of specified what the criteria was that you had to implement. So when Marcos and his team went out to pick a system to help manage that, we had to formulate the application based on the requirements of the U.S. Department of Treasury. And it gave you the income guidelines. It talked different data points that we had to collect. So we issued a grant application, first come, first serve, but then still each business had to be evaluated as well as the employees, and they had to show proof. At the end of the day, they have to show these as wages on those individuals' paychecks per IRS. And we as a county have to report on that. So a lot of that information on this premium pay was also reflected in the performance report that we have to report quarterly and then annually to the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Okay. I guess I would say I have a little bit of a problem just with the fact that we have employees that started December of last year that might be eligible for this, that I think is stretching the definition a little bit. But given that the threshold of income is very low, I think these individuals are still likely very deserving of that boost. And so for that reason, I'll support it.
And if I might add
Madam
to
Chair.
Commissioner Olivas, when we checked with U.S. Department of Treasury, when they sent the information to me saying that your premium pay was no longer an eligible expenditure because the emergency health order had been lifted as of April 10th, when we were looking at this and looking at ways to expend our funds, Marco's team had saved all of those applications. So even though the $627,000, it might vary, you might not get it all spent depending on whether those existing applications still meet that criteria with those employees. So it's pretty rigid. And I think I have to say that Bernalillo County's done an excellent job with ARPA. I've sat on some calls. We had 4,700 counties that are in contempt and running the risk of getting their funds taken away because they didn't do their reporting and they didn't capture all the data. And then 46,000 municipalities. I've asked them for the information on New Mexico so that as a Bernalillo County participant, we can maybe help those entities get their reporting done and not have to lose the funds. So.
Commissioner Benson.
Madam Chair, thank you. I think that's a legitimate concern about the date. However, that date wasn't determined by us. That was a federal guideline. The other thing is that the employees that are going to be receiving these funds, as well as the employees that have already received the funds under the initial program, they didn't know this was coming. So it's not like they jumped into work for an employer they knew was going to apply for funds that they knew were going to be released by the federal government, that they knew that Bernalillo County was going to apply for that grant. It just happened the way it did. And so back to your ultimate point was it's going to bless employees who were just doing the right thing. They didn't know this is coming. They still don't know this is coming. This is the will of the board. So I think it's, I'm just excited to be able to put these funds back in the community.
Commissioner Benson, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would love to make a motion to approve.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for your good work. Item 10B, approval human resources collective bargaining agreement between AFSCME Council 18, Local 3908 Blue Collar, Foreman CBA 2023. HR Manager Don Hill to present.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I am Don Hill, Senior Manager for Labor and Employee Relations here at the county. Human Resources is seeking Commission approval of the negotiated changes to AFSCME Council 18, Local 3908, the Blue Collar Foreman. Negotiations between the county and Local 3908 commenced on June 20th of this year and reached a tentative agreement on September 9th. On September 13th, we're proud to say that the union membership voted unanimously to ratify the contract. As this is a midterm reopener, the contract's end date remains at 6/30 of 2025. The economic negotiations resulted in the following agreements by the parties: an increase of 4% in the employee's base hourly rate of pay, and a one-time payment of $2,000 upon ratification of the changes. The There were other minor non-economic and formatting type changes that which were made, which I can elaborate upon if needed. I'd like to thank the county manager and ASME Local Council 18, Local 3908, their negotiating team members, Local President Isaac Sanchez, Rhodey Bell, Brandon McDonald, Rodney Baldonado, and Rob Trombley for their collaboration and professionalism in reaching this agreement. I'd also like to recognize the other members of the management negotiating team, Deputy County Manager Shirley Reagan, Deputy County Manager and Fire Chief Greg Perez, HR Director Bernadette Perez, and our outside negotiator Dina Holcomb. I don't believe there's a representative of the union here tonight to speak, but otherwise I stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
I move for approval.
It's been moved, and I will second that. And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very much. Item 11, announcement of our next commission meeting will be Tuesday, October 10th, 2023, here in the Ken Sanchez Commission Chambers at 5 p.m. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.